Commission meeting on Thursday, October 28, 2021 to order. First agenda item number 1 is opening and approval of minutes from our October 14th meeting. Does anybody have any questions or discussion?
I move approval.
I second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Number 2, move on to number 2 is a rezone of 1.7 acres of property from R18 single family to the public use zoning district at 550 East, 300 South, and 605 East Tech Drive. Who's got this one?
That would be me, sir.
Right.
Tonight we are, the applicants put in for rezone for 1.7 acres of property. It's on probably the north side of the DATC. It's where the seminary building is. Right now it was zoned for R18, so the seminary was meeting zoning. They want to change it now for other purposes at the school. And so to do that and be in zoning compliance, they are going to go from a R18 back to a public use zone so that they can do what they need to do. And what we are is just looking for a recommendation for you to take to council, and staff recommends that favorable recommendations, what I was after, go through for that so that they can do what they need to do for their school.
Okay.
Staff, anybody have questions for, I'm sorry, Commission? Anybody have questions for Dan? No. Does this require public comments?
Yep, so it's a notice for a public hearing if you
Okay.
want to open that up, and then the applicant's here this evening if you have any questions of them.
Okay. Since we probably don't have anybody else, do we also, in addition, get any comments on this?
I have not had any, and no emails, no phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did do the typical notice, 500 feet with letters and our normal posting everywhere, and
Okay.
I think it's just pretty straightforward with matching the rest of Davis Tech's campus, so
Okay.
it's been quiet.
Sir, did you have anything to add or on
She
behalf?
said the 1014, then she said the 1028. I think you're the one that she said wrong.
Okay, commissioners, back to us for discussion.
I'm ready to make a recommendation.
Okay.
I would move that we recommend the rezone of 1.7 acres of property from an R18 single family to a public use zoning district for the applicant, Davis Technical College at 55 East, 300 South.
Have a second?
I'll
It's
make a
550 East, sorry.
550 East 300 South.
Yep.
I'll make a second.
Okay, we'll start the voting with Steve?
Aye.
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 And I.
Okay.
Are you here for this one?
Yeah, he's the representative.
This is for the fire, is this for the fire academy that's going to be there?
No, we intend to build that on another location on campus.
Okay, yeah, I'd met with Darren recently on this, on the fire academy.
Yeah.
Okay,
That'll be more centralized in campus.
okay, so this is for other usage.
Yeah, we recently just purchased it from the church in an effort to make it consistent with the rest of campus. Why for this change, so.
Sorry, what is your name?
My name is Bryce Fox.
Okay.
I'm Director of Facilities at the college.
Cool. Thanks, Bryce.
Thank you, Bryce.
Very good to meet you.
I work with your foundation quite a bit, so, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so we're good with that. Moving on to agenda number 3, consideration of instructional home occupation. Looks like this one was tabled from our 9/23 meeting. Who's got this one?
I'll cover this one for you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. You'll have to bear with me. I've been losing my voice the last few days, so apologize for that. But the ordinance that's here in front of you is one, again, it says it's tabled. We discussed it. If you remember, this is a way to address allowing some additional home businesses that we don't currently permit. And that's in the case of some instructional or educational opportunities where people who don't live at a home could use that property, for example, for swimming lessons, tennis lessons, if there were a particular facility on site. During the discussion, the commission seemed pretty open to the idea that, yeah, it makes sense. We provide some opportunity to let people conduct a business. The property owner, of course, would have to get permission. It's restricted to no more than 4 outside employees, so there's some limit in scale, and then the planning commission, under the process, would have the ability to limit it even further. But that's at least the cap, and then you could go down from there on a case-by-case basis. Same with the number of students, so there wouldn't be any more than 12 clients or students at any one time. And again, the commission, as explicitly stated, could choose to reduce that if you're finding that it's necessary. The change that we really made from last time from the comments was there were some percentages in here that limited the size of facility or structure that they could do that in. It was the feeling of the commission that, what if somebody has a huge basketball court that's more than 10% of their yard, that type of thing. So essentially, we took those same ideas that everyone was okay with. It's more or less the same as our last discussion, but we've just taken out the percentage restrictions altogether as part of this review. So apart from that, I think it's, as we've discussed, and hopefully that addressed, I think, the comments that we heard from the last discussion with the commission, and we'd be looking for a recommendation for the council to consider.
Lyle, on this one, is the city going to bother with liability issues between landowner and lease lessee? Or is that a consideration that you don't get in the middle of?
Yeah, so chatting with the legal team on this, we feel comfortable that we're not going to bother with it. So as long as we know that they've got the permission, kind of the example they gave was even in our commercial settings, their leases all over town. That's just between them, and whatever happens on it, there's certainly liability issues, but they kind of saw this as a similar one.
So it takes on a lessee-lessor agreement under.
Yeah, they would be agreements or contracts of some fashion between people who are doing this on site of somebody else's property. There may be some that are maybe a little more informal than others. Next door neighbor, 18-year-old wants to teach basketball on your sports court or something, then maybe it doesn't get too concrete, but again, I think legal was fine with that's the city's in a good position there where we're not assuming liabilities for those connections.
I'm trying to remember for this particular, that was tabled on 9/10/3 I'm trying to remember which person, wasn't it the gentleman that owned some kind of trinket place in the shopping center, that Bowman's shopping center, and wanted, or am I thinking about somebody else?
Are you talking about the guy who made the challenge claim?
Yeah.
That was a different night.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of what stirred this, we've had, I'm not sure if people have come before this body with interest in doing this, but we have had interest in staff, people coming into our office trying to apply for different license types.
Right.
And openly, we've had businesses that we've learned about that they thought they were doing things appropriately, and we found there was some disconnect on actually whether or not it was a resident performing it at their own home or if they had other people coming in. So it's to address some things that we're hearing from the community and able to
Got it.
give them a legal option to
Right.
pursue those options.
Okay. Actually, I almost forgot the title of this, which was instructional home occupation, because I focused on number 10, where it says, shall not be conducted selling of merchandise, which made sense. Again, I forgot that it was instructional home. I thought it was just in general, so. Okay. Well, commissioners, had a chance to take a look at that. Any issues with this?
I'll move approval for ordinance, for ordinance, there we go, for recommendation to, favorable recommendation to the council for instructional home occupation ordinance.
You make sure your mic's on, see, we're having a hard time hearing.
There we go. Is that
Thank
better?
you. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion for favorable recommendation of instructional home occupation ordinance enacting section 17-26-4B, instructional home occupations of Title 17 Planning and Zoning of the Kaysville City ordinances.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I guess I'm up next. Aye.
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 Okay. All right, so number 4, call to the public. Open it up, nobody, closing it. All right, number 5, Plan Commission training by staff. Lyle?
So I've put together a few things, and I apologize to Commissioner Hunt, but some of this is from a recent thing we did with Kaysville University. And I thought, and there is a little bit more to it, but I thought it'd be kind of a good opportunity to share with the commission. You know, it seems to be interest in what has the city been up to, what are some things that are coming, and you know, I hope it can be maybe a back and forth. So we've got a lot of images and maps and things we can show on some of the stuff that's been happening, and we can probably point to this area might be coming next, and here's what we're kind of hearing, some things like that. If you have questions, feel free to chime in with any of those as we move along. And hopefully that gives you kind of a big snapshot of kind of where things stand. I think just in that general curiosity of, you know, what might we be addressing next and what do we need to be prepared for. But also as we're, you know, working on that general plan, you know, some of this data is kind of in there in a different sense, but maybe I think it helps reaffirm sort of the direction that's taken, but maybe it helps you as we're preparing some changes to that to address your comments that should be back here in a couple weeks before you to look at. Perhaps that influences, you know, how you receive that and whether or not we've hit it right or not. So,
Hey, Lyle, I'll have to say this on the floor, but I know you're a short timer, but I was expecting a map to be emailed to me yesterday that you promised.
can you say that again?
I know you're a short timer, but I was expecting a map to be emailed to me yesterday on the property we were discussing down there at Western Drive and Angel.
We can't work that fast, you know that.
I know you're a short timer, though.
Well, let me show you here what we've got. Maybe it's in here. No, I'm just kidding. So these are things that the commission will know, but I just plug this in where it's got the recent census data. So here's your growth in Kaysville, right? And so we're at 33,000 people currently. It's about 5,500 more than we were a decade ago. So there's been quite a bit of growth. It's been pretty consistent over the last few decades. And most of that, as you can tell with the bright red, is west of I-15 and more recent years. So anything that's yellow, blue is really old, yellow is older, and as it gets orange and redder, it's just newer. So it's probably not much of a surprise to the commission of where we're seeing that. And just so you can visualize it here briefly, you see in 1990, not a whole lot west of I-15. At least that's the easiest to kind of pick out how it's changing. And you see here by 2020, it's essentially filled in, right? So we're going to kind of highlight some of that and what we've been up to. So this is some numbers on our permits and what we process as a department. And the blue is interesting because it's essentially additions and remodels, and you see how that's kind of spiked. And we're feeling it even more in 2020, 2021 with the pandemic. People got a lot of projects and they're really busy with those. We do about 120 or so homes a year of recent, and so it's fairly steady. We've definitely had busier years. If you look back in 2006, and Dan could probably tell you how much fun that was with the number of homes they were doing. But, you know, so we are still doing quite a few homes a year, 100 homes plus. We're 400 people every year that we add into town. And commercial, again, a lot of TIs, tenant improvements. I think by and large we do pretty good keeping our spaces filled. We don't really have any notable empty spaces in Kaysville, so the market's pretty good. We are still seeing new construction built. Go ahead, Steve.
Did I see a new tenant on Main Street, the Family Search?
Possibly. I'm trying to think if we've had a license for it. Does that sound familiar? A family search?
Just across the street.
Yeah, sometimes they'll start coming in and we're a little slower on getting the license on them, so we might have to hunt them down.
Yeah, this is a bigger tenant, but yeah.
Yeah, we keep about, 400 plus commercial licenses that we try and keep tabs on every year. There's about 700, that's a little less these days, home businesses. So Mindy runs all that and keeps track of it. And yeah, occasionally we'll get them that they're not always sneaking in and trying to go under the radar, but they like to get set up and work with us as we're doing fire inspection and things before we get all the licensure in place. So we'll make sure to double check on that. But yeah, and again, the new builds that we're seeing around town, and you probably see these yourselves as you travel around. If you're like me, you probably follow the same route every time, so you may not know all of them. But Kaysville kind of has a niche in the market for flex space, and we've done pretty good with like Climate, for example, that type of building that's works for office, but it's got warehouse so people can ship product to and from. They can do some R&I, or R&D, excuse me, research and development within the space. And yeah, we've built several 100,000 square feet over the last few years. We've got more that's knocking at the door, ready to come. We've got building permits ready for more. I'll kind of point out where some of that is. The commission doesn't often see those because, for better or worse, Kaysville City, most of those are permitted uses. So these are areas that are already zoned commercial or light industrial, and it's not a conditional use type permit where it's coming before the Planning Commission for specific review. Some of the ones you have seen in the past, which unfortunately haven't worked out, but you may remember the golf situation, or we had I forget if it actually came before you, but we had the Congo gym that had a climbing gym element where they needed additional height. And so there are some components of certain businesses that may come before you. But by and large, we're just seeing those come in through our office and dealing with them. And occasionally you'll go find them as you go drive around town. And again, this is just the different permit types. So you see overall, we are doing a lot of permits, even if it's not necessarily brand new builds. Compare that to 2006. They're very busy building department and inspection. There's a lot happening and a lot of investment in Kaysville that people are doing to improve properties. Swimming pools, solar, it's inflated a little bit because we count our Generlinks that we hadn't always put onto these, which is something we do with our power department. So if the power goes out, you can plug your generator into your meter to feed your house with energy until the power's back up and running. So we do a lot of those. And again, we kind of talked about this, but here's the business license trend. So you can see we are increasing the number of yellow commercial licenses. The green one dropped quite a bit in 2019 just due to some state legislation that said not every home business has to be licensed. So if you have somebody that just makes phone calls from a desk in their office and they don't have customers and such, we don't mandate that they be licensed. But many have chosen to retain a license, so again, we still continue to hold about 500 or so. Anyway, so here's just a snapshot of roughly the past 7 years. This is just one section of town where a lot has happened. So if you can find a couple landmarks, you got Barnes Park there on the top right. This is along 200 North. That red border is the Kaysville-Layton border. So these areas between 2016 and 2018, so about a 2-year period, you got a new school, new shopping center, Hill Farms development there in the top middle. And you can kind of just see how much we've filled in. Another 2-year period. There's 2020. And this one's 2021, so it's about 5 months old. And of course, it's already out of date, right? So more of this is coming in. So just to kind of put on your radar here, right off of this yellow, and this is the preserve subdivision that Symphony Homes has been building. It's been through all of its approvals for the Planning Commission and Council already. Phase 3, they're probably paving the asphalt on it here within the next week or so. And again, that'll be ready for more homes. So there are areas here, including this with Perry Homes, that are done and ready for home construction, and they'll be moving forward to the next few phases.
Hey,
know, some,
Lyle,
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. Can you remind me what kind of homes are going into the preserve?
Yeah, so the preserve, it's a 2-unit and acre type development. They're all single-family detached, and they're probably selling about 900,000 in ballpark or up.
Oh, so what are like the lot sizes?
So just be aware, I mean, that's our neighborhood. The beginning price used to be around 725, and they've done a price increase recently. We had some neighbors who are selling and moving over there. Their base price is 945, base. By the time you're done adding all everything into it, you're at about $1 million, 1.2, 1.3. And so, yeah, I mean, just, that's the jump in building material and land costs in the last 2 years.
And the lot sizes on that, so it's 2 units an acre, but that's a net density. The lots are probably just a little over a 1/3 acre on average. So again, the idea is we had 40 acres roughly. They got 80 lots roughly, but then you take the roads out of that and whatever's left goes into the houses. This community does have a pool that they put in there as an amenity, but beyond that, they're larger lots. 16,000 square feet, I think would probably be more or less the size you'd see on it. But yeah, to get that price point. Some of these builders, in this section of town kind of paints the picture. Symphony Homes is one that has done a lot in Kaysville over the past many years. We'll look at some of their other work to the south in Sunset Equestrian. That's essentially one of the largest subdivisions in Kaysville's history. It's a very big one. They're out of lots there. They're almost done with this subdivision, and you're going to have builders that are looking for other ground to do stuff, and there's not much left, as you can see how it's filling in. Perry Homes similarly is interesting. They're one of our slower builders. They're a very good builder, but the rate at which they're moving just kind of speaks to the market and how fast things are just being chewed up. So it's very interesting to watch kind of their progress in this area. This full subdivision in this corner was 122 homes. They've got about 70 or 80 of them approved, and they got probably 2 more phases that they'll be coming in over the next year or two, and just depending how fast they move.
So Lyle, this one right here, is that 55 and older?
Yes, this is an active senior community that Ovation Homes built.
And I think that's been the most interesting for me to watch, because that was 95% sold. It came before I got on planning commission, that was approved. And I think there was some trepidation to allow it. 95% sold before you opened.
Yeah, there's definitely demand for it. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because most of them are the 2 unit per acre, or very close thereabouts in their density. This one was higher, and this one here next to Smith's Marketplace, they're about 4,500 square foot lots. They're single family detached, but easily the most dense west of I-15, I think, to date that has been done. You can see probably the stuff that's coming next, and it's just who knows exactly when. We hear a lot of speculation in our office, anything from someone who's never talked to anybody about the property to someone who's been talking for years to owners. Yes, there's the corner here by Barnes Park, Clinton 200. This property here is already slated for the Ogden Clinic. It's got its entitlements in place that probably within 2 years, I would suspect, will be under construction. And then there are a few commercial lots throughout Barnes Park, one of which...
Where's the high school?
So Davis School District took over this building and has been remodeling it, and they'll expand that in the future. I don't know how.
What are
many
they
years
using
it'll
that
take,
for?
but-
It's a technology high school. And so so from what I understand, so on the workforce development side of economic development, we've met with the school district and Davis Tech. And so there's the reason we were meeting with Davis Tech recently about workforce. And Davis Tech can't keep up, even integrated into the school district with their programs. So the school district said, that's fine, we'll build a high school. And so they're magneting all the students who want to do composites, computer science, and some of these others. Now, video gaming, and part of the funding for this is coming from private industry to pipeline the kids into private industry. Because as they're looking at this, they're saying, get a certificate, come work for us. So Northrop Grumman, Hill Air Force Base, some of these others, because right now, like if you look in the IT industry on base, there's like a 6,000, between Northrop Grumman and these others, there's like a 6,000 shortfall in programmers and computer science people on base, and computer engineers. And so this is part of that development to get the workforce that they need on base and have that work for them. So Davis Tech and the compositing is we're attracting more industry like composites to the county and ensuring that workforce stays here with Hill Air Force Base. This is the other side of that coin, is that making sure that we have the educational workforce social infrastructure that maintains that. So this is being built here and funded through various private and federal and other means.
I believe there's cooking in there.
Yeah, it's coming out with certificate. It's not going into, you're not coming out with a degree to go to college. Some of the stuff that we've been doing in tours with Northrop and with prior to ATK being acquired and stuff, we'd be going and meet with, and we still going to meet with them in an industry, and you'll have high school students who just graduated. They're making like $35 an hour starting as laying composites in building wings for Airbus 350s up at Clearfield, and so and then some of them are going into college and they're getting that knowledge on how to do that composite engineering, and so they have more knowledge than the professors at Weber State. So they're getting the hands-on experience while the company pays for their education, and then they're staying within the industry. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around for some of these.
Should be starting in January this
Yeah.
coming year.
Construction?
No, the construction's going right
Oh,
now.
okay.
But students will be able to
Wow.
attend it in January.
Yeah.
There's an application process that they do that's pretty intense, so they're
Yeah.
not just taking anyone.
Right.
But
It's a magnet
so my
school.
son, I've got him talking to his school counselor right now to go in. And it's, so you go there for like a whole day. So it's like 6 hours that you would go there and do your classes.
That's pretty good. And then how many students can they accommodate there? Curious.
That's a good question. I'm not sure the student body capacity. Yeah, we could find out.
Yeah, I'm just
I
curious.
think candidate Jay Welk is the director over this component with the Davis School District, so you could pretty quickly ask and
Yeah.
let you know. But yeah, it's an interesting deal. When the council said okay, because it used to be a software for H&R Block, their business location, and there was a little bit of talk about, okay, we're losing a taxable user on this, valuable ground in it, but, I think by and large, having these entities available in Kaysville and close to our residents and, is a higher priority than that, and I think it speaks a lot to, Kaysville and what they prioritize, I suppose, is that educational opportunity, and as Steve said, then it pays off in different ways than perhaps its direct tax implications, so that'd be a fun thing to watch, and they do plan to expand in the future, that exact facility. So,
And what's nice is that gives Kaysville a base from which to do workforce development and retain workforce here. I think it'll pay off economic development-wise down the road for us as we look at, that's why I think the mixed use and some of these other ordinances that we're looking at will pay off. And I think, and we'll send out an article, and I'll touch just as we're talking about future use. As we look at future use and redevelopment, office space is being looked at differently. I talked with my cousin's a developer. They've done about $42 billion in development in the last 5 years. He said their company's taking a hard look at the way office is developed. They're doing a project in Phoenix right now with City of Phoenix and City of Scottsdale. It's on the border of the two. And they've gone in and developed office, residential, retail. Before that, it was 100% office. They're now doing 2 more projects like that down in one in the Phoenix Metroplex.
So you're talking about like office on the bottom?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Station Park, that 2.3 million square feet of office, the developer came back and said, we want mixed use. They're going to develop office, retail, and living. And part of that now is with affordable housing component mixed into that. So I think 30% of the housing they're building is a affordable housing component. So I think as we talk about office and mixed redevelopment, some of the stuff, you're going to see the way COVID's kind of said, we can flex working, we can flex some of this. It's going to change the way cities interact with office and the way we develop and plan the future. So the traditional office is no longer going to be the way things develop. And I think retail shifting, we've done an analysis on retail and the sales tax, and that's the next shoe to drop is the way sales tax. We've done more sales tax in the city through online than we have through in-store shopping. And the cities up and down. So I think there's some shifts in patterns of behavior and development that's going to change.
Let me just kick over to another area here, but yeah, just kind of the trends to watch for, as you're asking. You can see these corners, I think Angel 200, might be something that comes in the foreseeable future. The commission has talked about this property before. It's next to this Harvey Estates development that the commission actually made some recommendation to have some smaller lots and townhomes on this site. And the city council at the time, it's probably been a year plus ago, that actually only approved just this specific component that has been built. So none of the other stuff is entitled. It's still an agricultural. They did not do the full recommendation of the planning commission way back when yet. So it's still open. I don't think the family's ready to go on it, but something to watch for. And again, lots of flex space coming up in here. We probably have another 60,000 square feet proposed that'll be in front of the council because they act as the architectural review committee in this business park. They'll see that within a month or so proposed. So more is coming, and it's that different type of space that Commissioner Lyon's talking about, probably not your traditional office, but it seems to be working very well for a lot of our properties here in Kaysville to accommodate kind of today's needs and demands.
Hey, Lyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, on that last page, what went in? You said that we made a recommendation and the council only approved part of it. What went into that part that they approved? Like what are the types of homes?
This specific spot here, if you can follow my cursor, was what was approved. They approved an R110 zoning district, so it's a single family detached. The smallest lot in there was probably about 12,000 square feet. Is
right.
That about right then. So we had to go to a smaller district. Most of the lots are closer to half an acre within that. So they went with sort of the low-hanging fruit on the very similar to the development around it. They approved that component. They had an R16, I think, proposed for some more patio, and then I think we had it under an R2 anyway, a townhome style as well, and all that stuff was left off at the time and is yet to be approved. But they can come back. It just said, let's leave it at agriculture for now, and trying to think of the conversation. There was probably some concern about it, but more so the family wasn't really ready to develop it yet. So they were thinking way far out ahead, and I'll take some blame on that. I told them, hey, if you're going to plan the property, let's plan the whole thing, and whether or not you build it yet, you might as well at least know how it's going to lay out, and so that you're setting yourself up to prepare for those future phases. And so that's what they kind of came forward with, is here's what we think we would like eventually. And the council said, well, if it's eventually, let's wait on the eventual stuff and let's deal with what's here before us now. So if you head south, you can see Centennial Junior High and Snow Horse Elementary, so Smith Lane here. I-15 Boondocks is just off the screen. So again, you'll see a little bit more growth in the area. This is that Sunset Equestrian Estate area primarily. And just watch it fill in over the 6 years. We get to 2021, 2019, 20, and 2021. They're essentially done, right? So there are a few lots that are just kind of wrapping up, which are probably done at this point. Here on the top right of your screen, this is the CW Homes Parkway project. That's got 64 lots, I think, total, under 2 phases. And phase 1 had 42 lots. Every single one of them is under construction. I think they're all sold. Phase 2 has about 22 lots or so in it, and all except for ones they're holding out for some future sales or sold and pre-sold. So they're going up quick. They're about 6,000 square foot lots, 4,500 square foot lots, all single family detached, and that leaves about 12 acres of commercial just north of it. And we do have permits submitted for 2 flex type buildings. Again, there's, I'm going to get it wrong off the top of my head, but they're probably about 100,000 square feet between those 2 buildings and flex. That size feels about right, Dan. It's been a while since we've looked at them.
Yeah, that's about what it was exactly.
So between the 2 buildings, they got their approvals, we've done our pre-construction, ready to go. They just haven't paid for and pulled the permit to start yet. So any day, just once their crews are ready, that'll be under construction. And then there's an additional 3 acres, or excuse me, 6 acres besides what they're doing, that'll have more similar products. So again, it's that flex office. It's really just, you can't get enough of it here in the area. They seem to be doing very well.
Well, there's 98% absorption right now. You've only got 2% vacancy in flex. Can I ask you a quick question, Lyle? Right along here, I drive this often. What is up with this parcels right here? It's all vacant along here. Is there an easement that makes it so they can't develop that?
So those properties, you can see it in this area, and you'll also see it to the north, are owned by the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. They're all developed properties, so they're serviced with utilities and everything ready for homes to go on them. But Jordan Valley Water, and you can see a few here to the north, they're not quite as many, but it heads through Layton. They purchased those properties to preserve them for the Bear River Pipeline that may be built after our lifetimes. It's certainly probably decades out, but they just hold on to it. It's easier for them to put a pipeline in before people build houses. They're a tax exempt entity, so they let people put horses on them to take care of it or whatever. They sit on it, the ground appreciates, they put their pipeline in, they sell them later. So they're ready to go, but yeah, it'll be years before you see any homes built on them. Yeah, this area, again, it's mostly done. I think, again, what's next, and this will be one that's going to be knocking on the door, I suspect, pretty soon, just across the street from Pioneer Park, the west side of Angel Street. There's about 50 acres of private property, and yeah, there's some speculation that may be coming soon for development consideration and approvals.
So right here, you've got West Davis that comes down. This is supposed to extend down and wrap up. Am I correct in that thinking?
Correct. So we've stopped building and annexing to preserve a corridor for West Davis corridor. So nothing's going to go further west than what you can see here, other than this little pocket. And yeah, what Steve's talking about is Angel Street. Ultimately, is our plan is to extend that south along something we've called the Shoreline Drive, and it'll loop actually further south outside of this picture. We can see it in the next grouping, I think. So Angel Street's just about here off the screen. It would loop down here to the bottom end of Sunset.
Okay.
And then go south again to the new interchange on the West Davis corridor, which is roughly in this area.
And then this gets extended down through here, correct?
Shepard Lane will head south just below the church here. So this bridge will be rebuilt and veer south. So if you think about Shepard Lane right now, it's a very busy street. Everyone feeds off of Sunset to go there, go over Shepard. When this new frontage road is built, people will use that, and they're going to avoid Shepard altogether. They can just head south on that to get to this new connector road and the freeway. Shepard will continue. It'll actually stub into what the new road will be off of this new bridge. So yeah, there will be some variation there. So if you watch, again, what's left to actually grow in the area, it's pretty much built out with one exception, and that is this area here. So what's happening between around 2024, you're going to have this project that should be more or less done, which is the new Shepard Lane interchange. It will be a full interchange. So right now it's just a bridge over the freeway, but you will be able to get on and off, head north and southbound on I-15 at Shepard Lane. That project's funded by the state. It's doing its environmental studies currently, which I actually think the environmental is completed, so they're under a design phase. So yeah, that's happening essentially at the same time as some of this West Davis corridor construction. And again, it's just off the screen, but you'll have that new interchange here, a full interchange here on I-15, and a route in between them. So that's going to vary what happens with traffic. One of our few big pieces that we have left in the area is about 5 acres here just off of Shepard. So, you know, that may be one that comes before you, where historically I might have said maybe there's some commercial potential, but with all that traffic being sucked off of Shepard Lane and pushed to the south, it becomes a lot quieter of a street, and there's probably not demand to do commercial development there. So you're probably going to get housing proposals of any variety there that watch out for and just be ready. And then this frontage road, we will be constructing at the same time as this connector road here in the interchange. We'll head west just along the east edge of the sewer district up to Sunset.
So is this all sewer district here?
Correct.
So what is the future for that property?
Well, they currently plan to continue doing their operations.
Yeah, I figured.
Part of how they process their sewage is they essentially create they call it a sludge, and they use it as fertilizer that they actually apply to over here, and then they sell hay or they sell mulch and different things with it. So they'll continue to do that. They call it a land applicate, and by doing that, they don't have to ship it out. So it saves them some money, but they also gives them the ability to resell some of the farm product. We have talked to them. They acknowledge that maybe someday, decades down the road, that they need to develop some of that, if their processes have to change enough. So in our general plan and talking with them, there's a little bit on the south end where they said, yeah, maybe some of that goes commercial close to the interchange. It's not necessarily something they're ready to sell right away, but it's on their radar that, you know, maybe that's how it ends up happening. And I would suspect you're probably talking residential type uses this far north from the interchange if it ever were to happen. But again, the immediate plan is it's just part of how they process. So we'll have a road that hooks up there into Sunset, and what we're building that's currently funded. The city's received some funds through grants in the state, some allocations. We'll be able to build enough street to get us a road to here that will go down to the interchange. Eventually, we'll get it up to Angel Street. But what's happening now, we'll just tie into this specific area. And what that will do, and you know, a year or two down the road before that's completed, but this whole area, the city has been saying to date, you can't develop because we really only have one way into it, and for emergency services and some utility concerns, we've required that there be a second access into it, and that's going to create that opportunity once we build that road, and 60 thereabout acres of land.
So you're only coming to here, or you come down to here?
It'll tie right to the bottom of this
Is that
kind of a dirt road currently.
Is that a 3/4% tax money?
I think some of it is the third quarter. Some of it's come straight just from the state TTAP. Well, not TTAP, but it'll come to me later. And then some of it we've got through STIP funding from WFRC.
Okay.
We hoped to get it up to Angel Street, but we've bumped into some property issues and funding anyway, as far as acquisition. And but yeah, again, eventually that'll connect the whole system. So this area is something to have on the radar of, okay, what might that become? We have had proposals. Again, this Equestrian Center, you may remember, we had 100+ people at a fire station about 2 years ago that didn't love the townhome proposal that was on that. So that's one in the area. We've had Ivory Homes propose some 4,500 square foot lot, 6 unit and acre type development on big chunks of it. And you know, that's the kind of stuff that people are going to want. They're coming asking for smaller single family lot or townhome type projects wherever they can put them. And you guys know the political pressures is whether or not that's going to go through, but those are the conversations. And I think this particular piece, this up here is one the commission's already given preliminary plat approval for. We'll see a final plat hopefully in the not too distant future. Not as much east of I-15. I don't even know that I show it all here in this particular map, but you can watch it start to change. These ones, phases 2 and 3, they're paving the streets this coming week probably. So that'll open up another 50 homes just right here in this area in the Orchard Ridge project. This Talbot Estates project, same deal, they have paved it.
Do we know, price-wise?
I don't. So they're smaller lots, probably, well, smaller than what we just talked about. They're about 1/4 acre. If I were guessing, I probably said a different number last time, I guess, but you're probably $600,000 start.
I'm sorry, what was it?
I'm guessing 600 to start.
Well, I mean, actually, that, if you think about it, you're quote unquote on the hillside, so you're paying a premium for, being on the bench, I guess if you want to
So
call it.
do you eat your front yard?
Yeah.
So the builder on that one is not one I've ever worked with before. So Brighton Homes developed it. And you may remember the Anderson and Morton group that actually did the entitlements. But Brighton sold it to a group called Leonard. And they're a national builder. They've done stuff all over the state and all over the nation. They're the second largest builder in the U.S. I've just never worked with them. What I've seen from their product website, it looks like they do a good home, and they've been very, very detailed going through the process, so they certainly know what they're doing. But yeah, they've already paved everything. We're just kind of wrapping up to where we're going to allow them to start pulling building permits. I assume they will sell very fast.
Lyle, let me ask a quick question. Does the frontage road complete through here already?
It is, yep.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so that leads me to the next question then. So I know that the 400, well, we'll say 200 north of the case going, but the 200 north exit on ramp is done.
Right.
So bringing it into perspective, when does the 89 section down to Farmington complete?
I don't know the project's timeline outside of Kaysville. I mean, they're probably another year and a half off on finishing everything. But
I
I'm
thought
guessing.
I thought they were supposed to have the Farmington section done by summer.
You may be right, because they are completing the southern sections first. We're done essentially with UDOT and within Kaysville, and you can tell we don't have a large stretch of it, so that's where we've been more involved.
Okay.
So I'm not positive what will happen to the south and the north. I do know that they're talking on the very far north end of 89 down in South Weaver, Uinta area, that they need to add to the project and do better to get people. Yeah, so that's under.
No, I was just wondering because that's gonna, if this is done, that means the development can move forward.
Yep.
So the shooting range is what?
It's over here.
Wilderness Park.
Yeah, so here's the Wilderness Park parking lot and Trailhead.
So you're right here.
So these items up here.
So it's technically in fruit.
The shooting range is in Fruit Heights?
Case Heights.
Yep.
Fruitville.
So yeah, these are 50 lots that are opening up, and they're going to head straight into the next phase and finish the other 50.
It's in Case Heights.
There's not quite that many, but about 94 lots total in this one. Most of this, it looks like it's open, and there's a lot still to be done. This is the south side of Crestwood Road. This is the Simmons property, and it is platted. They're large estate lots, and if you've ever driven through it, they're large kind of estate homes. That's just what will continue to be. It's not going to further develop, in my opinion, into smaller lots.
What's-
What's going to be built there? It's all hilly.
Oh, I don't know. There's probably 50 total lots within the whole thing.
Lyle,
I
what,
just assumed nothing was.
where's that 12 acre parcel that's been donated for a park?
12 acres.
Is it right here?
So this is it.
Okay.
We call it the Open Shaw property. So the Open Shaw family, like Commissioner Lyons had donated it years back. The general plan that we're looking at currently calls it that, yeah, would likely be used as a park property someday in the future. So that's right here, close to 89, top of Crestwood. And then there's a big chunk in this, so we'll see a map later, but a lot of this map is not in Kaysville City. So even though this red border here is the Layton City border, there's the Mutton Hollow Township that is unincorporated, that is this large chunk in this general area.
I'm going to ask them in politic question. With what the state's asking on annexation, where does that sit within the city's plans?
Well, what's it, the state asking?
The state wants all annexed.
Well,
The state does?
They
I
want
say
that-
we
they want
accommodate
that.
them.
and the county. It is on the Kaysville City Annexation Policy Plan as an area we've identified we might someday absorb.
So what
It
are
is
the pros
not
and
one
cons?
we're interested in. It's certainly immediately. It's a very difficult
Yeah.
annexation to take over. Primarily, we have our own power system. We'd have to take over a large section of Rocky Mountain Power, and we have our own water services. This place has its own water district that we'd have to, so the utility services in itself are just a big challenge and a huge cost and expense. If it's going to go to Kaysville City, we want it up to our standards to be able to provide the services that we hope to our residents. And generally, we would say, you're welcome to come, you pay what it's going to cost to do that, and that could be millions of dollars for those residents that, again, it's so that it doesn't hit the existing Kaysville taxpayer bill, it would go to those who wish to incorporate. The day may come, though, when their systems aren't serving them sufficiently, and that may say, yeah, it's time to justify that cost, and they're going to want to get better services.
Okay.
Again, not a lot here. You can see boondocks. So you had a little bit of new commercial in that area, a little bit on 200 North. This area here is the Botanical Center. So here you can actually, again, it's one of those kind of misconceptions where it looks like there's still a lot of room to grow. Utah State owns and controls, it's something like 120 acres between the property to the east and west of the frontage road.
New fairground.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the announcement here. So the county fair is not happening anymore down in Farmington. They'll be building a new riding arena up here close to these ponds on the west side.
Sorry, what arena?
A riding arena, so you can take your horse.
That's cool. Who's building that?
So the new Heritage Fair, once that stuff is in place, will be in Kaysville rather than a county fair in Farmington at the Legacy Event Center. So that's kind of the future of this area. The Botanical Center has some interesting plans to provide some recreation amenities through the ponds and amphitheater, classrooms, different things on their facility over time that, you know, may take years to build out, but ultimately you're not going to see housing in this area, probably not commercial. In particular, this right here, so if you're familiar with the property, there's kind of a hill that goes up. It's kind of the divider between the educational services and the research orchard. So all of this to the east, you know, is probably a little bit more prone to development, but my understanding is it's purchased with Fed grants for that specific purpose, and because of that, it's unlikely to ever be anything different. But, you know, times change. So same here to the south of Burton Lane, or excuse me, yeah, the south edge of Burton. So most of this is controlled by one owner. It is private property. Happens to be a developer, is my understanding. But we've also, at least in my conversations together with them, has no interest in developing it. So it's this little slice of heaven. But the day may come when this particular area is ready to go.
Where'd you say the new rec
How
center
old he is?
Not rec center.
Writing.
There's an equestrian center.
No, I mean the new rec center the citizens voted for.
They heard the Kaysville like sources, so they decided to bring it
The new rec center.
Yeah, citizens said they wanted one. Where is it?
Where's your house line?
Okay. So anyway, this is kind of just puts everything together. So it's not perfect, but you may have seen these before that we've shared with you in your Dropbox. And essentially what's colorful is still has some potential for further development. What's blue, at least on the north, is what needs to be annexed. And what we believe will probably be quarter acre type developments if they were to come in 4 units an acre. Just based on trends, anything red would probably go about 2 units an acre. The green stuff is currently being built, and the yellow are our commercial properties.
Can you go back to that one, I'm just trying to figure out how wide is that West Davis corridor? Because there was one slide where you said there was nothing going to be built to the west of.
Yeah, they had a green book.
Probably.
So when West Davis corridor got bought, they purchased and did a set aside right away.
Okay.
So when you look at the map,
To the west.
when you look at map of Davis County,
Yeah.
you know, you won't see development, and same thing on Legacy.
Mm.
You won't see development except what's existing out there.
Right.
Probably in our lifetimes, I'm sure at some point.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen here is they'll build it here.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, here. There you go.
Hey, Lyle, just a quick question while I was pulling up. Do you have to be touching something to annex it?
In Utah,
So, yeah, annexation law now requires that you be,
you can't.
there are some exceptions and ability to do it, and it's probably going to be quite the exception, but it should be touching.
And the other thing,
No manifest destiny.
there was
for
a
Kaysville.
certain city in Utah County that contracted their fire services out and allowed them to be potentially annexed into Salt Lake County. Yeah, so there's different ways to annex in.
So what's important to see with this freeway that's being constructed is where it looks like there's space between the freeway and the homes for maybe more development. For one, you can kind of see that don't have connections through streets into there. The bulk of it is Rocky Mountain Power, and so they have their transmission lines through that. In theory, there is a little bit of potential that you could squeeze a few little cul-de-sacs or dead-end streets through these areas, but primarily we've built as far west as we're going to go. Again, this is that acreage where we're probably going to see development proposals soon. Again, this doesn't show it, but we would be connecting Angel Street south of this Equestrian Center to this 550 West, over to Sunset, and then down to this interchange.
This is that interchange on the grass.
So is there any, I know we talked about this, but I can't remember, at that interchange spot, is there any potential for commercial there, or is it pretty much all built out?
Oh, the sewer district includes that.
So it might be one or two
Well,
spots.
that stuff on the dump and
Yeah, I'm hoping this would pop up. There we go.
sharpshooter.
So this street is virtually the city boundary, 950 North, so we share it with Farmington. Really, where there might be some potential viability is this commercial idea on some of the sewer district property one day, should
So
they
this
choose
is
to do
like
it.
what,
It's essentially a park and ride.
Park and ride
Nice.
in between the Northrop.
You can see this acreage here, so not done yet. This is actually part of Kaysville City.
Right now, they're hauling down this road, all of the fill for this project.
Well, we hear about it, don't we, man?
All the haul trucks. One thing that we're having a conversation on with this parcel, excuse me, I believe it is all currently in Kaysville City, this vacant piece. And we have a market study that we're doing together with our sister cities up and down this project, so Layton, Syracuse, Farmington, West Point, if there are others, to kind of check on the commercial viability of these new interchanges. So we're kind of waiting to see how that pans out. Farmington would love to essentially call this road the city boundary, which makes some sense from a service standpoint. I guess we'll have something to say about it. So Kaysville's kind of said, okay, well, if you'll take over the maintenance of that road long-term, all the cost, all the snow plowing, any resurfacing, that type of stuff, we'll call that and maybe give up that land into the border. But part of that's pending what is that actual viability on this property here. So if it could be something beyond what we think it probably could mean, then it may stay in Kaysville. Depends who fights harder, right? Okay.
Okay,
So wait a second.
people drink whiskey, people fight over water.
So yeah, that was kind of the, I think just some of the overview of some of the
Just
stuff that's coming
a question
down.
on,
Please.
what are the color coding? What does this mean right here? Like on,
So this is our attempt to predict what's coming down the road. So anything that's red, we would expect would probably grow at 2 units an acre, just based on previous trends. Anything that's blue would be about 4 units an acre. Yellow is commercial, and then the green stuff just means it's underway and under construction. So we've used this for some population projections and things, and it's based off previous trends. So if Orange, for example, where those large estate lots off of Crestwood, that's 1 home per acre that's still yet to be built. So we can, both based on historic trends and knowing what kind of development's coming forward, estimate how many residents will continue having. That's why we use those codings. Just a gee whiz, I thought was interesting, so something we shared with the council. It'd be kind of fun to go a little bit further back, but this shows kind of the items that you've been dealing with as a commission over at least the past 3 years. We don't have our 2021 items in here yet, but I think of note, what's very interesting is you see those conditional use permits dropping. It wouldn't surprise me if we went back to 2017 and 16 that we probably had 75, 80, 90 conditional uses that we were doing. And I think that just speaks to a trend that we're doing as a commission of identifying. Our last meeting, we had a model home, and we're saying, why are we seeing these all the time? Let's find the rules, let's put it into our conditional use. So we've done that with a few things. Some of our home business types, we deal with as staff rather than always bringing them. Prior to 2018, and I don't remember when exactly when we changed it, we used to have to do chickens, and we probably had like 4 or 5 on every meeting. So I think it's a good trend that we're spending less time on those types of items. We have been spending a lot more times on ordinances. We've had, general plan or other processes coming up, but there's been a lot more, hopefully, big picture type discussion, and I think that's important for you as a commission to spend your time there rather than some of those. So hopefully we can keep that trend going, and we'll get some more and more ordinances in front of you coming around soon. So anyway, with that, I don't know if there are any questions or anything other specifics that you're interested in, but I hope that kind of just points out what we've been up to and maybe what's coming.
Any chance we can get a copy of that just so that we can, or at least for somewhere where we have reference? Because I think that those slides are pretty good, just seeing how it's developed over the years.
Lyle, is there any way to take the city back to 1980 so that we can, make sure that it's not too overpopulated?
Go back in time and undo all the development?
Yeah. Can we build a toll booth on the road to keep non-case villains out? Non-case villains.
Villains, love it.
Every entrance to the city.
Just know more's coming, right? Everyone, we're hesitant on the change. Sometimes it's exciting, sometimes it's tough, but as much as we've dealt with, it's going to continue to be there. And again, I think our general plan speaks to is partly because there's not a lot of land to do it, but you're going to be dealing with infill development, deep lots, large yards. What do I do with those areas? Older home products that take out one house, put in 4 or 5 in place of it, and that's where the market's going to push harder and harder in the upcoming years. So development doesn't stop even when you're out of land. It just changes how it develops. And it frankly gets a little more tricky. And so those are the next chapters.
Okay. All right, on to number 6. Back to you.
Well, so just as far as reports and calendar items, November is the month of holidays, sort of, as far as it relates to our planning commission. Our office is closed on, and I think, notwithstanding Veterans Day, the 11th, when our next meeting would be scheduled. And then similarly, Thanksgiving Day is the 4th Thursday of November. We've kind of alluded to that previously. Certainly, I think Thanksgiving we would miss. We've sent out an email kind of to pick your interest on maybe when the best time would be to meet during the month of November. I think one meeting may be sufficient. We are working still with the consultant on getting the changes, hoping to address your comments so you can see the changes on the general plan before you forward a recommendation to the council. Frankly, the more time we have to do that, the more likely it's going to be ready and better. Nonetheless, as you've heard and alluded to, I'm a short timer. I'll be around till the 12th. So I could participate at a meeting anytime before then. Otherwise, you'd be welcome to a Tuesday or Wednesday night generally, or if we can't do the Thursday, probably a decent time to meet. Council will be meeting on the Thursdays that we're not meeting, so we can't use their nights. So if the 10th, 17th is what we threw out, I'd just be interested to see what's your preference. We could also do the 9th or 16th or the Tuesdays. Yeah, the further out, the more time the consultants, I know they're kind of scrambling, I guess, to add that in and get it wrapped up for you. So if we did have more time, it's more likely to be polished up and I won't say it's perfect, but at least what we think is ready to present to you is addressing your comments from previous discussions. So if you guys have a preference on when you think it would be best to meet, then we can let our applicants know, as we're dealing with other items, probably what our expectations are for that month.
Okay, so we're saying either Wednesday, the 10th, or the 17th.
The 9th or the 10th.
Or the Tuesdays would be available. I mean, Tuesday would be better for me, but I mean, if everyone works better for Wednesday, that's fine, but I
would
can't.
say, my preference would be, as Mindy alluded to give the consultants more time, so I'm more than happy to go with Tuesday, November 16th to accommodate.
That would work.
Anybody,
I could do that.
everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
That works.
Great, thanks.
16th.
Okay. Yeah, we'll plan on that. We'll work with them to make sure everything's ready. And worst case, so what the council said, and really it's still in your court, but just they're, I think, happy with the direction the commission's taken of make sure you're comfortable with the recommendation that you give on the general plan. So if it does come back before you and you feel like, yeah, this is what we asked for and there's consensus on that, then it can move along. If it needs additional work, then that's certainly always an option as well, too. We'll probably leave it up to the rest of you, but come December, again, we probably wouldn't be meeting on the 23rd, the week of Christmas. And so, again, it'd probably just be another one meeting month. But there shouldn't be any conflicts with the 9th, which is our typical meeting date. I think we'll just assume we'll be on the 16th of November and back on the 9th. So quiets down at the end of the year on the number of meetings you have to come to. Yeah, so unless you've got direction, I think, from us as staff or anything else, that's our reports.
Anybody?
Commissioners?
I think it's up to Steve.
He's got to say the words.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
We need a second.
Becky second that? Seconded.
Adjourn.
It's just not a meeting without Steve saying so.